think she just jumped on the Islamophobic bandwagon.
Yeah.
And I think, there are personalities, journalists, politicians out there that are responsible for driving that bandwagon, which she's jumped on. I mean, from what I know about her, she's a carer. So, maybe this was a way of escapism. But personally, I don't think she should have been sentenced. I mean, she's going to go to prison. Is she going to be less or more radicalised? She needs her her thoughts to be liberated. And I think she should have been educated with some kind of referral to prevent.
I remind you that there are two cases being heard at the same time, even though there's only one person in the dock. There is the punishment for what she did, and there is the contextual role of the sentence in society at large. So I could come with you if it was confined to the first bit, if it was merely a response to what she has done in her life. You then would have to deal with all the people asking what would happen if it were a Muslim calling for a church to be blown up or a synagogue to be blown up. But you sound bright enough to do that. The point at which I depart from your position and disagree with you is the point at which the judge is mindful of sending a message to anybody minded to behave similarly in the future. And a referral to prevent or a fact-finding mission to her local mosque, or sitting down with magnificent Adam Kelwick, who we spoke to on Monday up in Liverpool, all of those things would not send a message, a suitable or sufficient message, to the next Julie Sweeney, to the next person looking at their political heroes' self-recorded films and then thinking to themselves, I might just stick something on Facebook calling for your mosque to be blown up, Hussain, if indeed you go to a mosque.
James, I hear what you're saying, but do you know what the most powerful message would have been?
Go on.
For Julie to have gone and educated herself about Islam.
Yeah, but there's no deterrent.
Hold on.
I'm holding. I'll hold. Sorry.
Sorry. And then for her to convey the message to all the people she knows exactly what Islam is about, and obviously then change her thoughts about, we're living in a nation where we come together. Coming together makes us stronger. It makes us greater.
I believe that 15 months is far too lenient, if I'm honest. I think when put it in context in my mind, you've got Just Stop Oil protesters. Yes, they can be frustrating and annoying. They got 5 years, 4 years. They
were on bail. I think it's going to be pretty hard, isn't it, to see people who had a Zoom call planning some social unrest going to prison for longer than someone who was actively encouraging people to blow up a mosque full of adults, full of people.
I mean, I hadn't heard that report about that Facebook post, no. And I've just left the office to go on some calls.
Okay.
And I pulled over hoping that I would have time just to quickly phone in and express my disgust, because I see these posts, not as bad as that, but a lot of posts, and I just can't believe what people are putting on social media at the moment, and the impact that's having on people. And while that might be part of the reason for why that lady posted that, I don't think it's justification. If I was in a group of people out of an evening one night, and one of my friends in that group threw a punch in anger at someone, and it caused some real injury, then I'm guilty of association. So as far as I'm concerned, this lady should be guilty of association in rioting. And
that's a really powerful point, because if you posted something like this during a period where there was no rioting, there were no attacks on mosques unfolding, there were not people seeking to either set fire to them or then the crime would be different. That's the bit. That's what I was trying to convey earlier when I said that's why we've got judges. Because some of the stuff that comes in, Lee, when Sadiq Khan is in the studio, some of the stuff that comes into this studio is as bad as this.
Yeah.
But it exists in a different universe, doesn't it? Because there is not a mob out on the streets poised perhaps to attack a mosque. And also it only comes into me and him. It's not something that's been put in front of 5,000 people on a Facebook group. So you're right. She's adjacent to and potentially complicit in actual violence.
I believe so, and I think the broader point is, I think it's scary that people believe that they can share these thoughts and threats on social media now without any fear of recourse.
I think it's such a worrying thing we're seeing out there. You know, a breakdown of certain parts of society and a sort of lack of consistency about punishment. I do believe that the judges at the moment are trying to send a very firm message out to these people, but irrespective of what sentence you put them away for how many years, what does it do about their beliefs? I mean, you know, my problem is it's about educating some of these people about, you know, what they're saying, you know, burning down mosques. Why shouldn't this particular person perhaps be taken into a Muslim community for a while and educated about, you know,
well, it's not either or. It's not either or, is it?
No, not at all.
We spoke earlier this week on Monday, in fact, to the Imam up in Liverpool, who has done precisely that, and we'll be speaking to him again. But you're right. I mean, the question here, in some ways, that I think you're nodding towards, whether we realise it or not, is who radicalised her?
Yes, exactly.
I think we know.
And how do we treat the root cause? I think, you know, as you say, it's not one or the other. It's a complex solution, which, you know, the courts have a role to play, but there are other areas of society which have a role to play as well.
I just kept thinking about kind of the chicken and the egg kind of analogy.
Yes.
And maybe kind of back to what you were saying about people thinking you're out of touch if you think, well, someone couldn't make me, like a political figure couldn't make me have such strong opposing views against a collection of people. But then you go back and forth and say, well, those feelings already exist, and they've kind of maybe been played on.
Yes.
But then also you wonder about, and then you kind of go, well, like, that wouldn't happen to me. Someone couldn't influence me to that degree. A political figure of any, you know, I'd have my own.
Or a columnist, or
anyone, columnist. You know, someone with a political agenda that couldn't make me want to do something like that and put it online. But then you go back and forth between kind of, well, what was her upbringing versus my upbringing? Where did she grow up? What influences did she have around her? So in that, but then it still doesn't make me feel sorry for her, because I think.
No, I mean, I chose those words very carefully because I wanted people to actually ask themselves that question. I do not feel sorry for Julie Sweeney, but I am open to the suggestion that she has been led to this place that she bears full responsibility for ending up in. But we often ask the question, who radicalised them in other contexts and other crimes? I don't think it's wrong to ask it in this one. I really don't. I mean,
and hopefully it will have a wider impact to show that the online crime and hate and spreading these kind of ideas and thoughts. And it's been so lovely to see the opposite happen.
Yes, it has.
People coming back against, and that made my heart swell, because
me
too,
makes
you feel desperate in a desperate situation, and then for the opposite to happen, it makes actually something horrific and something really terrible that you wish never happened. I hope that they're realising that they won't win, and there are more people to go the opposite way.
That's beautifully put. That is beautifully put. Because online, and this is relevant to your original point, you can perhaps get the impression that everybody agrees with you.
Agrees with you.
Because it's all you ever see. It's all you ever see. So she's there on a community group about which I don't know much on Facebook, but she clearly doesn't think that what she writes is going to be particularly pungent or offensive to the people that will see it. Because, and you can do this online, you can completely surround yourself with people who agree with you.
And unfortunately, as people have seen with these riots, you know, whatever. But it does happen in person. But I think when they think they're the majority,
that's empowering. That's emboldening, and that's why the images you refer to were so powerful. Because once this initial rush had passed, when people thought they were going to be turning up to join enormous groups of fellow racists, they found themselves instead in groups of 3 or 4 with 500 or 1,000 people on the other side of the road, reflecting what I would describe as the moral, never mind the silent, the moral majority and the values that you and I and all my callers today actually believe in, but not necessarily all my listeners.